And when I was 8 years old, it's when Harry Truman um, ran. If I've got a political mentor, it's Harry Truman. I study Harry Truman to this day. I keep McCullough's book on Truman right by my bedside. I got 2 copies, one I keep down in South Carolina and one I keep up here. And every now and then, when I'm at a loss as to how to deal with something, I say to myself, what would Truman do?
Really?
Oh, yeah. And I'll go and try to find a chapter in that book that might help me work through what it is politically I'm trying to do. And it's been, it's had a tremendous, I think, positive impact.
Why Harry Truman, though?
Well, because Harry Truman ran for the presidency against all odds. Here's Thomas Dewey, the wealthy scion from New York, big crime buster that everybody knew was going to be president one day. Here's Harry Truman from the little state of Missouri, who just an ordinary background, who had a disability with his eyes, who sort of had a little bit, I think, of a complex. You know, the S in his name. He just put it there. When I go to high schools and I tell kids about this, I usually use Truman because so many kids think of the president as being something far beyond them. And I talk to them about Truman, and a lot of them can identify. Here's a guy who thought that in order to be important, you need to have a middle name, so he puts this S there. And so I tell them, I said, now, anytime you write Harry S. Truman, now you remember, don't put a period behind that S because it doesn't stand for anything. It stands alone. These little things, it just sort of endeared me to Truman. Then that newspaper headline, here's a guy that nobody gets a chance. I mean, even the newspaper says he's got no chance, and they even go to print the headline. But when all the votes were counted, Harry Truman was president. And very unpopular, never really caught on. But when people began to look back on what he did, Truman, to me, if you start ranking the presidents, I think this guy ranks in the top 3, even today. If you look at all that was going around, how this nation fit into the scheme of things, I think Harry Truman ranks in the top 3. To me, he might be, given George Washington, but if you take him out of the equation, he might be 1 or 2.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I, admire Truman and for many, many things. I don't know if you read the book Plain Speaking by Merle Miller, which I read years and years ago, and I just thought, gee, what a wonderful guy who is a plain speaker.
Absolutely.
And can make the most complicated thing seem so simple.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's part of why he was not this big giant while he was serving. And when you look back on it, that was the genius of the guy, I think.